Okay.
can unmute yourself.
Thank
Yeah, great.
you. Thank you, Manu. Thank you so much. This was incredible. I'm so grateful for this. I've needed this. And I have two questions, if that's okay. My first question is, I noticed during the tuning fork, I forget what that's called, but that I was going through the process, I think, with my parts, and they were coming forward, and then I would notice that I was checking out, like my consciousness was checking out and not being able to be present. I was breathing, and then my breathing would stop, and I would notice my mind kind of going away. And what my intuition told me is that this is me possibly self-abandoning, which I do in my life. And I wonder if you have some guidance. Is that correct? And if so, like, how do I, and it's a process, I'm sure, with self-abandoning, but how do I help myself? How do I not abandon myself? That's the first question. Should I go to the second or just wait?
Let's go to the first one. Sorry, my microphone
Okay.
is off.
Okay.
Let's start with the first one. So,
Okay.
can I ask you a question? Did you go to a younger version of you in the session?
Yes.
How old was it?
Well, the main part that I was working with is a part that it's come to me in the last week, that when I was born, fractured off of me and left. And this part was a boy, and this part left when I was in an incubator. He died, and he wanted me to die. And he still wants me to die. He doesn't want me to be here. And that's what I was mainly working with.
Okay, so the little one, if you can connect to the little one and ask a question, was it abundant?
Was it abundant? And right now you'd like me to answer?
If you get
No?
if
No?
you get
Okay.
sorry.
I'm not sure what, I don't know what the right answer is, but what I'm getting is,
That's the right answer.
what I'm getting is he says no.
So who abandoned you as a little one?
Who abundant what?
Who abandoned you as a little one, as you were young?
Oh, who abandoned? Who abandoned the little one that left, or me?
Yeah, that's a question to you.
Which I want to ask that now.
So who abandoned you?
Who abandoned me personally in this life? My mother.
Okay. And how old were you when you?
How old was I? It was definitely in the incubator, maybe at conception, maybe before. It's going back to past lives.
Could be. Okay, so one of the reasons you do that is because you got abandoned. So the work that you have to do is to find and heal in this life, or if you think it's also from past life, abandonment.
Abandonment. Yes, absolutely. Do you recommend I do this life before the past life, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. So with my mother, not with the soul part, or both? For mother first.
Both.
Both, yeah. The second question is around your process. You said to do this for several days. And if the process I guess for me, there are at least 5 parts I think I'm working with. So I would imagine just keep doing that until it's
Correct.
done, right?
Correct. Exactly.
Okay.
So your process is to build relationship and understand each of them. If the parts, this is why we ask the question that do you have somebody that you want to heal, the little one? And if it says yes, so I'm going to post it in the recording. When I will post the recording, I'll also post the link to healing the little one. Okay.
Okay.
So that you can connect to the part, but also if it says, oh, you must heal that little one, then there's a recording to do that. So you can just do that.
Okay. Okay. I'm so grateful. Thank you. This has
You're
been
most welcome.
invaluable. Invaluable. So grateful.
I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy.
God
And I'm
bless you.
happy for your part. I'm happy for your
Yeah.
parts, all 5 of them who are coming up. Bless them all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. You want to go, Mary?
Hi, Manu. I'm Mary Margaret, and this has just been amazing for me. And during this session, when you said the thing about between 4 and 5 years old, my dad left me when I was 4. And then right after that, you said, and something else happened about 2 years ago. My little brother died 2 years ago. And so like it was just really amazing for me. Like I could feel my body like being released. I could physically feel it. But I have a question. Like I'm still in the process of like from last week's session of going inward and meeting with my anger. And so now that I've met with this new part, how do I keep meeting? Like, do I meet with these parts at the same time?
It's okay. You can, when you, all the parts that you connect and you name them, you can, some of you, if you ask them, they say, well, today nothing, I don't have anything to tell you. It's okay. They let you be. So let them be your guide. Okay. And some of them, I work with people with 25 parts. It's not that they're working with all of them at the same time. I have about 13 of them that are very active. But I have 2 or 3 which are always quote unquote coming up and saying, I want you to know this. I want no. That's how you talk to them. So let them. You see, your parts become your inner parliament of guiding your ministry, which is your life, right? So when you befriend them, when you make when you do not feel any more sadness or grief or anger, etc., towards them, then they become your guides. They just play along with you. They tell you stuff. You listen to them, and they give you wisdom. And some of them will say, "Nothing for you today," and you just say, "Okay, let's go." And so, actually, what you do is once you become so the first 15 days is to become familiarized with them. Then you don't need to do anything. They will come up when they have to. You're walking down the street, somebody does something, and a part of you will speak up and say, well, you know what, this is what it is, and I want you to do that, or you ask the question and then they reply. So it becomes second nature. But this after you've done working with it for some time. Okay. But in the
So the
beginning, you let
point
them.
is, so the point is for me to show up every day.
Exactly. There you
Okay.
go. This is
Okay.
what they want. This is what, when I work, when we work one-on-one, they complain. For many of them say, you never came. You promised, you never showed up.
Yes. Right.
Okay. And
Okay.
that makes them think you're not authentic, which means you're not in yourself yet, which means you're not yet having energy. So how are you going to heal? So I'm not going to change my position. So I stay where I am, you stay where we are, and we keep this dance going.
Okay.
Till you know me well. Remember, all parts have one objective: keep you safe, protect you. This is why when you ask a question, what are you afraid would happen? They will tell you it's fears. This is what I'm afraid will happen to you. Some of them, when you're in the session, it feels real, but when you are outside saying, why would it be afraid of that? That's how the parts are living. So when it knows that you are aware of the fear it had to go through, and it keeps that fear to keep you protected, and you commit to do something about it, because one of the question is what needs to happen for you to relax or be less present. Says, oh, I told you, do this, and you start to do that. Now say, oh, I don't need to bother her. I can go and do what I was originally destined to do as a part. Play, have fun, okay, etc. Make sense?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it so much.
You're most welcome. Okay, I have one question here, and I'm going to ask that. I realized today, even though I recognized trauma since womb approximately 2 years ago, that the kids are running the show. You're right. I was thinking that kids means your younger ones. I was thinking that I'm parenting myself sometime, and now think that I am simply a kid and there's no adult in me. Any suggestions? Okay, so what you got is right, that the younger versions of you are still stuck there because they had to find safety in whatever was going on at that time. And they found the mechanics. This is why they get stuck there. And because they're stuck there, they drive your consciousness. This is what drives all your thoughts and etc. etc. And when you say you will not believe how much I self-sabotage myself, I thought that the decisions were made by me as an adult, and now know that they were made by my kids. Yeah, correct. However, you can go to them, either befriend them, or if they say, I want you to heal something there which happened, then heal them, because then they become free from it, and they jump from 5-year-old, 7-year-old, whatever age they are stuck in. And if they feel it is safe to be with you, because you are a good self-energy, then they will leave that place, come to you, be with you, and now you're no more driven by the child or what happened with the child. How do I know if the part is telling me the truth or I have to discipline it? Your parts will always be there for your good, to the detriment sometime for you, which means they may, when you say sabotage me, but they are not sabotaging you. They are acting from the place of where they're stuck, and they say, no, we don't go there. So I'm making a simple one. When it happened to me, when I was 8 or 9, and I was bitten by a dog that came out of a car, came and bit me and went in, and I had to take those. At that time, we had to take 14 injections in the stomach, which is very painful. For a long, long, long time, I never went on that street, ever. Or I would see that color car, something will happen to me. So this was my 8-year-old telling me, we don't go there, we don't look at those kind of dogs, and we don't go near cars of that color. So that's what was there. And I ended up having a beautiful black dog, and everything got healed by the time.
Hi, Manu. Good, right? Bye. You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me find the language. Hi, everybody. So I don't know what I'm doing, so just go with it. So the self is in each part, or there's a self within a part, every part. I don't want to say every part. And there's a
Correct.
part in every self. I want to ask a couple of things. In terms of self, are we going back to, I don't want to say idea, the original memory, the first memory of self, or the first tangible feeling or idea or core self? Like, because there's a self in every, the self is always there. Self is always there.
Correct.
And not to go off on a tangent, but I just thought, why are there breaks? You know what I mean by breaks, like the timeline. I don't know if they're timelines. They're more like space timeline. Like all of a sudden 5 to 7 or 10 to 14 or whatever. There's, I don't want to say no memory. It's under the
Good.
consciousness.
Yeah,
It's
under
it's under so that's regarding self without the name, not the little I. And also, can we overlap? It's so nonverbal. Can parts overlap with? I'm thinking of the woman who bore me, because I don't want to give it a label. But can we overlap with other people's parts? I want to stay away from the word enmeshment, because that's a real thing too. But can a part of me be in someone else?
Okay, so what happens is, and I'm also answering a little bit to a question that is answered here, okay? So I'm answering to your question as well, Answara, but I'll come back to it specifically. So what you have inside of you is, and we can call it reflection, we can call it memory, but we can also call it a part that holds the energy of somebody else. And the reason, and the reason, and that's why I want to use the word energy in a correct way. It's not the energy, it is the personality of the other person, but it's a part in you. So I give you an example so that you get it, okay? If your system has to protect itself from a mother or a father or a caregiver or whoever, and it is not one time, but it is repeated, the system, what it does, it creates an image, a memory of the behavior of the other person into your system. So, and then it says, I can now prepare to act from this part, but it's within me, so that I have a system to protect me. So prevention, so all the prevention mechanism comes from here. You see, I should not go there because there is a consequence. When I go in front of my father or in front of my mother, or my father is, or my caregiver, or my more specific, in the cases where there's a child abuse in the house, within the family, you find the reflection of the father, brother, mother, or whoever inside of you. And as you get older, even if the person is gone, is no more in your environment, you will never, ever be in touch with him. Sometime your father or mother has died, your system still works from that same presence, exactly the same way. Okay?
Yeah, it feels like there's no separativeness. Again, this is all nonverbal. It feels like there's no separativeness, or parts of, like they possess part of me, like they're
Correct.
in me. I know they're not in me,
correct.
but it feels like, get the hell out of me. I want me.
Okay, right. Now, to do that, and this is where it's the most, you think you're working with your father or your mother, or and I'm going to answer to your question as well, and Sarah. But actually, what you're working with is the presence of that person energy, and I want to use energy in a different way. Okay, it's not the energy like the energy. It's the behavior, the emotion, the experience that has to be taken into account by your system to protect or to manage, to survive. Okay, and
how do I
so
separate or click out of that? Discernment.
Okay, so correct. And so the thing you have to do is to first become aware that it is not outside, it is inside. It's in you. Okay, so that's the first thing, and you acknowledge it, and you say, okay, I get it. You were there, created to help me be protected. Okay, and then you work through it exactly the way you work through any part, because it's part of you. Okay, so you are not working with the mother, if that's the point, but you're working with the expression of your mother in your system.
It's very difficult. And
it is not easy. I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
This is the very carefully. That's why it's awareness is key, because you're at an awareness level. You need to be aware that you are not working with the mother. You're working with the presence of a part of your mother system that your system had to imbibe to be able to keep you safe or protect you, keep you going. And
right,
it's
well,
always
how much time do you have? No, I'm kidding.
yeah, so you go this way, okay?
Yeah, and I just want to say one thing. It's very difficult. It's, when I say difficult, challenging, when people don't see you. Neurobiologically, mirror neurons, which I think has been debunked to some length. When people don't see you, when you're not reflected in their eyes developmentally, you don't see yourself. You're sort of knocked out of the picture. You don't. The spirit part of you doesn't. But that's a challenge. I got that.
So the work you have to do is to start to separate, because it appears for an external. Sometimes they say, well, I see my mother in you. I mean, you hear it from your sibling. That's because there's a part of you that acts from it, because it learned to be like that. It was a survival behavior. Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. So let me go to you, Antara. Is it appropriate for me to work with the living person who I think fits into my scenario part? Yeah, male soul part, exactly. So it looks like, and I think you started asking question about abandonment. It looks like the part, your brother in you, is the one, that's what you are referring to, which is asking you what you say, I went, you go. So you have to go more deeper into understanding what is it fears. So what happened to the little you is that it got affected by the death of the brother, and hence it had to build his mirror image into you to keep you safe, to keep you going. Actually, this is what your system did. So what you have to do is to heal within you the part of your brother. Okay, so there's another one. I had a near-death experience during a surgery 2 years ago. Is it possible to lose parts of ourselves in a moment like this? How can I heal from a trauma that my mom and I experienced during my birth? She nearly died and her husband did show up. Oh, you came today in the... So this came up today in the tuning forks. Has something to do with the father. So, okay, yes, you can. Is it possible to lose part of ourselves in a moment like that? When you say lose parts of yourself, you lose something in you, but it gets stuck in memory there. So you should, if I'm not wrong, you should heal that. Okay, so the question is, if I lost a part of me during near-death experience, how do I reconnect with it? Uh, when you do, especially when you have a experience like that, when you recover, when you do your healing of the trauma of the accident, you will actually recover, because what your system does is it basically shuts off, dissociates to protect. And this is what, when people have no memory of what happened, is because of that. Now, when you do the healing, or when you heal your trauma, you get a lot of it back, but not from a place of, oh my God, scary, but from a place of knowing what it meant to you. So, Ansara, your question, it seems like a lot of memories would need to be healed, yes. However, if these memories are connected to person, maybe if you heal the part, the person from that memory related can be healed. Yeah, at a different plane, yes. And when you do, for example, when you do legacy unburdening, which means you heal your ancestors, but you heal you from the burden you took from your ancestors, there is also something that has happened, which is you heal backwards and you also heal forward. Okay, so there's a question. How do you speak to a food part? Eating, eating, eating. Stuffing, stuffing, stuffing. Okay. So actually, I was working this week with somebody, and what happens is, so food stuffing is an addiction itself, right? And the addiction is to numb the pain. So why do you eat? And when you start to talk to the part that wants to eat, because there's a part of you which wants to eat, but the others hate it because, and the way you're writing, it looks like you don't like it as well, right? But also there are other parts that also say, because you eat, then I have to suffer, because I may become overweight and I'm not liked and I'm not attractive, etc., etc. So these other parts they don't like. So it's like this part which wants to eat has an opposition from many other parts that don't like it. And when you bring them all three, in case there are two or three which don't like it, when you bring them all together and you hold them in the same space and you speak to the one which is making eat and you understand it, why? From a place of compassion. It says, I eat because I want you not to have pain. And it says, what kind of pain? Then it goes to a trauma. And when you heal the trauma and it feels safe for the traumatized part of you, that it's okay to leave that place and come out, then the reason to eat, which is actually to numb a pain, starts to diminish. And then you can bring other parts in which don't like the part that eats and say, well, what do you think? Just so you can do that. And it works well. Is it possible to resent part self for coming to this timeline? I feel called to make an ashram and these very big things which feel very isolating and not possible to just live there here and now, especially. I feel I'm countering the parts that feel called to monastic life when I try to experience 21st century. I feel like I'm acting out by trying to be in partnership and go shopping, just live. Yeah. So what I would recommend you do, okay, because you're asking a question which is there's a conflict inside of you, which one wants to live a certain kind of life, another one wants to live another one, or another one is living. And what I would recommend you do is you take any of our recording session and you go and talk to the part that wants to go into live into that timeline, okay, and ask it what's going on, and then ask to the others if they all agree to this, and if they do, and if they don't, then understand why they don't want to be there. There's a reason, and they'll tell you all the story, and then you take a decision based on everybody of your parts agreeing to where they want to go. The reason you get stuck is because there's an internal conflict inside of you. It's got nothing to do with outside. And once you have clarity, then you'll go for it. It doesn't matter the outside world.
Manu,
Yes, Steve.
the word attachment just came to me because that's coming into me of late. I don't even really mean, the psychological stuff that they talk about. It always goes more bigger to me. Does self and like attachment co-align or coincide with one another? It must in some way, right?
It depends what is the association to attachment. If the association is based out of fear or based out of sadness and fear, then it will have an adverse effect on the system.
Negative, yeah.
It will be negative. If it's based out of joy, absolutely not. Because the very fact that you have an attachment and there's no fear, there is just joy, it means you have basically evolved into a place where you're not afraid of anything. Okay. So one of the big concerns, and we are going to work on attachment story, one of the big aspects of attachment is there's a lot of fear. And then you create codependencies. Okay. And then it goes from a place so that love goes away and then something else takes over. And then, either anger or jealousy or other things start to come in because the fear creeps in. Okay. But when there is no fear and there's absolutely feeling of freedom, then it will be fulfilling.
It's interesting because as or when you look back, I heard this a long time ago about trauma. There's you before the trauma, whatever the trauma is, little t, big T, whatever it is, and whatever it is, and there's a you after the trauma, never to go back to that again. And there's the in between. I get that too. But, there's like a break. I was just going through a part and I said, you know what, that broke. And you don't know where it breaks. And that's the word attachment comes up, you don't know, you go, where did that break? Like, where did that change along that line? And it's not a cognizant thing at all. It's not no.
When you start working on yourself, actually it will not matter when it changes, because all these changes, so there were 35 or 39 people here, and they all have done some shift somewhere. Okay. And when we start to count the change, etc., then we are actually getting too much into quote unquote control micromanagement. When we step away and you start to look at things evolving, you just know it's a knowing thing. It's a very knowing thing. You just sense, okay, I'm becoming better than I was 1 week ago, 1 month ago, 1 year ago. Okay. And so there's something shifting in me. And that is key. And just being in that place gives you a lot of sense of peace. When you start to get, and that's the analytical part that start to come in, saying, I did this and that happened, I did this technique and that happened. That in itself has a story, because there's a very strong analytical thing which comes in and starts to put control. So the freedom disappears, and so the system becomes constrained. That's why sometimes, and you observe it a lot when people are people that have done 10 different systems and 10 different things, etc., and asking me, which technique did you use? And say, no, it's not about technique. It's about, are you making progress within yourself? But again, and it's not a critic. It's just that this analytical aspect, which comes from a lot from parenthood and teaching in schools, because there must be a reason why that happens. We get into it too much, and so and and all mindfulness and everything that teaches is to be in a present moment, which means you can say, I shifted from that to here, and I can notice a difference. And that's what matters. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to take, there's something here. My health is bad for a few years. I get a lot of fatigue and tiredness. Also, I do not sleep. I have ulcerated colitis and sleep apnea. Unable to work, want to turn, but health is unravel. Could you help? Yeah, I think so. You came to the right place. So, what I would, at least from a process point of view, okay, what I would really recommend is that you take those three things that I wrote in the process today and see if you can work through them. We worked today on suppressing anger because I think there's a lot there for you, and see if you can find and go back and keep repeating this session to find all examples within yourself where you suppressed anger and where does it take you, and heal yourself from it. One thing that I must say in my experience is you have psychological story and then the physiological comes afterwards. So when you start to work on your psychological part, which is what you're doing, you start to see an impact on the conditioning, small aspect of what we are just saying. And even if you see that you can sleep a little better, you can be more calm, you have less tiredness, less fatigue, okay? You take notice and you keep doing, and you can continue doing whatever you are doing with your medical system. If there is a medical system to support you, you don't have to change that. But what you can do is to conjunct this with working on your three things. So if you can work on those three things: ego, are you a caretaker, or are you suppressing anger? Okay, if I was conditioned to see myself through the procession of others, how do I know who my real self is? You do the work, you will discover. I promise you that. You work on the part of you that the ego. So this is the part. This is the second one on the ego. So which means you are always looking at somebody to validate you. So work on that, and it will help to find you. Do you think living parallel life is possible, or is this the trapped or the stuck parts that are playing out in this life? Depends. Okay, it's a good question. It depends what you call parallel life, and depend if you are fulfilled in both of them. Why not? But if one life, or when you say parallel life, it means living two lives. If in one life you feel fulfilled, in the other one you're not happy, etc., then there's an issue. You have to work on that one.
My question is, what came up, and I'll tell you what parts were aching, like felt really strange, was the fierce resentment I had by being brought up by an absolute narcissist who's 85 and is gone absolutely worse. It is my father, and my mother was the daughter of she was classed as an adult child of an alcoholic who had been institutionalized in a convent, and was absolutely beautiful. My mother could have been a movie star. And I was really angry that she ended up with my dad, and how my dad smacked me and almost blinded me in one eye at the age of 10. And I really resented both of them because she didn't do anything to protect me. And the parts that were hurting in my body or felt strange was I felt absolutely nothing from my head. The part was a young child, about 10, who is absolutely driven, full of fear, and I had to hold her. I have a highly evolved being in me that is not fully human. and I also have a teenager. Now, when the tuning was going on, I found my esophagus was, and it still is sore. Above my, well, below my shoulders, like as if there was a band, a large elastic band was around me. My ankles were sore. And my behavior now is, because I'm also in 12-step fellowship, I'm starting to be very passive aggressive. It might be ego construction, I don't know. I do believe in God immensely, but it's so painful, and I'm new to all this, and I find it amazing. And the guy I ran off with was absolutely amazing. He was an addict too, and very extreme. And I'm kind of seeing now why I did go with him. You know, he's highly political and also a criminal. And I just don't know how to heal from this. I've had moments of feeling joy to my parents, and I love them. But I hate the fact that my father does not show me love. My mother did, and it was like always overcompensating from like this weird, I felt it, a weird energy, place of guilt and like self-pity. It was quite nauseating, to be honest. Yeah, so it was the like an elastic band around the tops, below the shoulders, around the tops of the arms. The esophagus is sore, and I found my ankles sore. I currently am on no medication, and my blood pressure went right back to normal. I'm on absolutely nothing, and I've even kind of got rid of a trapped nerve in the right leg. But it did bring up a lot of pain that I thought I'd actually got over. If you could give me any feedback on that. I'm very passive aggressive to the point I will not dominate people, absolutely dismiss them. And I do feel better than, because I've had a very, very privileged life. I don't have it anymore, but there's like a part of me that like, it's absolutely vulgar, a part of me. And I will cut myself off from society, and I'll be quite happy in my study, in my own world, with my animal, and doing things of liberation purposes, because I've got this like hate in me. It can only be described as hate, that it still hasn't gone. And I've done years of work and 12 steps. I just don't know if you can give me any feedback, please.
Yeah, so the process for you will be exactly the same, because it looks like you're still holding the father and the mother is in you, because you had to cope with them. You had to cope with what your especially father, okay, and so your inner system prepared you. It's a prevention mechanism. We call them managers. What they do is they just learn. Okay, if I do this, if you do this, if you wear this clothes, if you say these words, if you do that, I am safe. But then it also probates to do other things. But then you get stuck with it, and the others hate it, and so that's where you are. That's why what you call the loathing or the passive aggressive is actually not you, but is the father part in you. And so work with it. Take any of the session and just go in, find it, talk to it, befriend it, because now you hate it. The word you use is I hate it. You have to go and understand it, because the more you hate it, the more it gets isolated, but it is inside of you. It's not outside. And the more it gets isolated, more it will do exactly what it's doing. So the more you will find more passive aggressiveness coming in. And so it continues and it continues till something breaks down. So what you have to do is to reverse it. And so the first way, friend it, become friendly with it, learn about it, understand where did you start doing it, what was going on at that time, and then if there's a trauma there, which you have it, because I can see it, there's a big trauma or multiple trauma there, okay, then heal it so that the little one can feel safe again, because now it's in the past, it's gone, the father is not even there.